like a week there. I wasn't putting any clips up on YouTube, and I don't know. I just kind of got lazy. I started to bring people into the show, and so I was just I'm a one man producer, talent, whatever over here. So it's don't want to spread myself too thin. But anyway, yeah, and that reminds me, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to call in at any point in the show, please be patient. Sometimes I leave people hanging for a few minutes, but that's only because it's hard for me to check the switchboard all the time while I'm doing the show. But I always check the switchboard at the breaks, and and the breaks are almost always, yeah. So if you want to time your call, the breaks are almost always like toward the bottom of the hour or the top of the hour. That being like, for example, 6 o'clock or 6:30, 7 o'clock, 7:30, what have you. But anyway, the phone number is 917-932-8806. Once again, that is 917-932-8806. We have a chat room as well. You come to blogtalkradio.com/Charles Lamson and look for that chat link, and we'll be in there. A lot of nights we have some pretty interesting conversations. All kinds of people drop by. I've had a bunch of old homies, if you will, I guess you would call them, dropping up, coming out of the woodwork lately. I guess, and that's been quite rewarding, actually. And it's good hearing from all of you guys again. Yeah, we some of us sort of lost touch over the years, and we just sort of started getting back in touch via this show and this wonderful thing we call the internet. And but anyway, so yeah, let me just see here right now. All right, so come on by, and we're going to be talking about propaganda tonight. Edward Bernays' book, written in 1928, and it's fascinating stuff. And once again, I just want to reiterate the reason I'm kind of going over this guy's book. I know it might be a little dry, but I just feel it's very important, just because if we want to know how we're actually being manipulated as a society, we want to know how these elite few are managing to manipulate the masses. This book is like their Bible, or one of their Bibles anyway, as far as that kind of stuff goes. And that's why I'm going over this. So I know it might get boring at times, but I don't know. I feel it's important, and I feel it's worth the boredom, to be quite honest. Sometimes we have to sacrifice excitement for quality. Exciting radio for quality of content, if you will. But anyway, all right, let's dive right into it. I was talking about how okay, I'm just going to dive right into it. This is from the chapter where he's talking about how propaganda should be used in business. The new technique of public relations counsel is serving a very useful purpose in business by acting as a complement to legitimate advertisers and advertising, and helping to break down unfair, competitive, exaggerated, and over-emphatic advertising by reaching the public with the truth through other channels than advertising. Once again, this guy's so full of shit. Yeah, in his book, I mean, I'm only saying that because in his book, he's acting like, oh, I'm such an ethical guy, and all PR must be done with ethics and morality and blah, blah, blah. And in the meantime, this guy was involved in some of the most shady PR of all times. I mean, I've already gone into it numerous times since we started covering this, but I'm getting tired of reading this over and over again about, oh, it must be all ethical and moral, blah, because it's totally, it's like, I don't know if he was high on drugs when he wrote this, or if he was high on drugs when he was working his campaigns, or what. But we're like this is like a split personality we're encountering right now, where two competitors in a field are fighting each other with this type of advertising. They are undermining that particular industry to a point where the public may lose confidence in the whole industry. The only way to combat such unethical methods is for ethical members of the industry to use the weapon of propaganda in order to bring out the basic truths of the situation. Take the case of toothpaste, for example. Here is a highly competitive field in which the preponderance of public acceptance of one product over another can very legitimately rest in inherent values. However, what has happened in this field? One or two of the large manufacturers have asserted advantages for their toothpastes, which no single toothpaste discovered up to the present time can possibly have. The competing manufacturer is put in the position either of overemphasizing an already exaggerated emphasis or of letting the overemphasis of his competitor take away his markets. He turns to the weapon of propaganda, which can effectively, through various channels of approach to the public, the dental clinics, the schools, the women's clubs, the medical colleges, the dental press, and even the daily press, bring to the public the truth of what a toothpaste can do. This will, of course, have its effect in making the honestly advertised toothpaste get to its real public. Propaganda is potent in meeting unethical or unfair advertising. Effective advertising has become more costly than ever before. Years ago, when the country was smaller and there was no tremendous advertising machinery, it was comparatively easy to get countrywide recognition for a product. A corps of traveling salesmen might persuade the retailers with a few cigars and a repertory of funny stories to display and recommend their article on a nationwide scale. Today, a small industry is swamped unless it can find appropriate and relatively inexpensive means of making known the special virtues of its product. While larger industries have sought to overcome the difficulty by cooperative advertising, in which associations of industries compete with other associations. Mass advertising has produced a new kind of competition. Competition between rival products in the same line is, of course, as old as economic life itself. In recent years, much has been said of the new competition. We have discussed it in a previous chapter, between one group of products and another. Stone competes against wood for building, linoleum against carpets, oranges against apples, tin against asbestos for roofing. Yeah, once again, I just would like to reiterate, this book was written in 1928, and so I don't think tin has to worry about competing against asbestos anymore. So, anyway, this type of competition has been humorously illustrated by... You know, usually I skip over this stuff because it's very dated. Some of this stuff is very dated. But this is interesting. This type of competition has been humorously illustrated by Mr. O.H. Cheney, Vice President of the American Exchange and Irving Trust Company of New York. Never heard of the guy before, but you guys think he might be related to our ex-president, Dick Cheney? Mr. O.H. Cheney? I don't know, but I'm not going to go into this because this part's all like pretty dated, and yeah, some of the stuff, you know, like I said, it's written in 1928, and it's a little dated. So, see, it's pass up this guy's quote. All right, let's see here. All right, so undoubtedly. Wait, where the hell was I here? Undoubtedly. All modes of sale, appeal, require the spending of money to make feel attractive. Okay. Alright, here we go. There is another kind of difficulty created in the process of big business getting bigger, which calls for new modes of establishing contact with the public. Quantity, production, offers a standardized product, the cost of which tends to diminish with the quantity sold. If low price is the only basis of competition with rival products, similarly reduced, there ensures a cutthroat competition, which can end only by taking all the profit and incentive out of the industry. The logical way out of this dilemma is for the manufacturers to develop some sales appeal other than mere cheapness, to give the product in the public mind some other attraction, some idea that will modify the product slightly, some element of originality that will distinguish it from products in the same line. Thus, a manufacturer of typewriters paints his machines in cheerful hues. These special types of appeal can be popularized by the manipulation of the principles familiar to the propagandist. Once again, I just find this is so interesting. I brought this up on a couple previous nights, but it's interesting how this book, it can seem totally, some of the stuff can seem totally dated and archaic, and yet at the same time be totally applicable to what's going on today. Notice where he says here, thus, where he's talking about, you have to add some element of originality. And he goes on to say, a manufacturer of typewriters paints his machines in cheerful hues. Does that ring a bell? I mean, today with our PCs, our computers, our laptops as well. I know Mac seems to try to make their computers more colorful, and it seems like they like to offer more colorful looking computers than our boring old man PCs, and somehow that makes it more attractive than just a regular black computer, black or gray, whatever. But I just find, it's interesting, and I guess they are our modern day typewriters, pretty much. So, thus the manufacturer of typewriters paints his machines in cheerful hues. These special types of appeal can be popularized by the manipulation of the principles familiar to the propagandist. The principles of gregariousness, obedience to authority, emulation, and the like. A minor element can be made to assume economic importance by being established in the public mind as a matter of style. Once again, Mac comes to mind. They try to make owning a Mac be like a cool thing, like you're being some sort of non-cutting-edge, non-conformist, avant-garde dude if you have, or dudette for that matter, if you have a Mac as opposed to a PC. Mass production can be split up. Big business will still leave room for small business. Next to a huge department store, there may be located a tiny specialty shop, which makes a very good living. The problem of bringing large hats back into fashion was undertaken by a propagandist. Remember the large pimp hats that came back in the 70s? This hat has absolutely nothing to do with what they're talking about. I don't know why. That sentence made me think of 70s pimp hats. Okay, the problem of bringing large hats back into fashion was undertaken by a propagandist. Once again, this is written in 1928. The millinery industry being the hat industry, 2 years ago was menaced by the prevalence of the simple felt hat, which was crowding out the manufacture of all other kinds of hats and hat ornaments. It was found that hats could... It was found that hats could roughly be classified in 6 types. It was found, too, that 4 groups might help to change hat fashions. The society leader, the style expert, the fashion editor and writer, the artist who might give artistic approval to the styles, and beautiful mannequins. Oh, if I had a nickel for every time I fell in love with a beautiful mannequin. No. People in the 20s were weird, man. Beautiful mannequins. The problem then was to bring these groups together before an audience of hat buyers. I guess some mannequins are pretty artistic looking, like the silver ones or whatever, but I don't get what he's... Anyway, okay, a committee of prominent artists was organized to choose the most beautiful girls in New York to wear in a series of tabloid